thorough pace, premium racing analytics, allowing bettors to identify races with extreme pace scenarios in a matter of seconds. Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. Bet any place, anytime with Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. And
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino on a beautiful Friday morning. We do not seem to have that flux that we had yesterday.
It was going in and out between wildly overcast and then the sun would pop out for a few hours. But by afternoon, it was pretty much sunny.
Yeah, I mean, we were cautious and it worked out for the day. Interesting day yesterday, but I want to get to the pick four yesterday, Seth. One of the pick fours, because what we've talked about happened, where it got to the last leg, and there was a favorite, a strong favorite. Now, as this turned out, this ended up being the DQ race, where a 7-5 shot was replaced by a 5-1 shot. So the winning pick four came back 1981. Right, very juicy. I thought now this is where the horizontal players have me over the barrel. I think the winning mutuals were, well, I'll just say the odds. Forget that. 3-1, 9-2, 5-1, and 4-1. And in my world, and I think many people would agree, all very playable horses at that price. You know, I mean, to me, a 5-1 shot, I look at it the way I think many people look at 7-2 shots. And it came back 1981. The parlay, I think, was 458. So that's a tremendous job there. But so you said to me, and I kind of always knew it, when it's the last leg, you got the favorite, and they don't win, you're wondering how much. So because the favorite was the last leg, the Irad horse that got DQ'd, and I said yesterday, I'm not complaining about it because I said yesterday, and I think David Aragon is on board with me, I have no idea where they're going. I think they missed both of them. I think they left the horse up. They're supposed to clearly take down. Yesterday, I was okay with it. I mean, he looked what he was doing. He took the space, and I don't think that's the first time he's done it, and they took him down. I was okay with the takedown. I thought he should have stayed up. But the other one I'm not okay with, so it doesn't matter. So there were 312 tickets with the favorite in the pick four, because I can do the math, the takeout. 95 winning ones. So there were about 5-1 in disparity on the mutual board, 4-1, let's say, maybe, and about 3.5-1 on the number of tickets in the pick four pool. And what I also thought was funny, this makes a lot of sense. Now the 50-1 shot who ran third, it was 1/10 the price, but it wasn't 1/10 the number of tickets. It falls off.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it also kind of makes me think, as a math guy myself, well, that's a way to play it. When the number of tickets out there, but that's just one race. That's just one race. So it was interesting to see how many tickets were on. There were 312 on the favorite and 95 on the horse put up. I think there were 5-1 and about 7-5 on the board. So you can see that disparity. And the favorite was Irad, that was taken down. So there was a lot there I think you can dig into. But I still would like to know, like when they fall on legs 2 and 3, anyway, I'd like to see with all of them more. I'd always like to see, I guess, the favorite's price put out. It's got to be anemic.
Yeah.
I mean, you say how much people love favorites now, but and once again, I mean, I know there was only 3 favorites won yesterday, but there was 3 second choicers, 3 third choicers, and the only horse that was outside was the Caldwell Loves Gold that just exploded at the 8th pole and ran by everybody like a good thing.
Yeah, my top pick, and I love that stretch run because he was back early, and the stretch run really.
That was you?
Those are the kind. That was me. So I had the.
You should get extra points.
I wound up with the longest price on the day,
you
right?
had the biggest mutual of the day.
All right.
Fifth choice in the wager.
Yeah, that was a nice little first-time starter that looked to have a little bit of breeding and lived up to it.
By the way, David Aragona nailed it, 6-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, good job.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, he's done a great
currently, job. Irad 22, Jose 12, Luis Saez 12. So a nice lead there. Linda Rice 14, Chad Brown 10, Todd Pletcher 9 on the human side. And we came down, a tick from yesterday as far as favorites. We're 42 now. I think it was 43 yesterday, right?
Yes.
So
well, they had went 7 for 10.
Yeah.
I mean, and also the part that, and tonight might be that opportunity for me, Seth. I think I have a light social calendar tonight, very light, as in I'll be cooking and eating in the house. But I'm going to find not only the winning favorites, the price point of these favorites, I think, is even stronger for the people there. So my point is their favorite opinions are even stronger than the norm. We don't have too many $7 favorites winning.
And I'm going to ask Marshall Graham about that because I have him on at 10 o'clock. I know you're a Twitter fan of Marshall.
I'm telling you,
everybody should be.
I'm 60 years old. He's lucky that I have to get these a haircut because I would be a stalker. I know for Twitter, we're probably similar in that his is better. He has a lot of great ideas and they really can't be truncated into 140 or 280. I mean, it's very deep. I love the math, etc. And I think like that breakfast with him. I can abduct him, have breakfast across the street at the horseshoe because
he does look
he's
at
so
the game.
Smart.
He's a professor of economics at Rhodes College in Memphis, but he's also an owner. He's a contest player, smart guy, and he analyzes the game Twitter, from a lot of different angles and just gives out great. So we'll talk to him about much of that. But yeah, he mentioned that because I was listening to a couple podcasts last night for this with him, and he talks about how it is different now. The favorites do get hammered much more than 10 years ago or whatever. So we'll on a little bit
one of the reasons I kind of miss that, Seth, is when I'm playing my part wheel trifectas, I'm very dismissive of the favorites. I want them to be 3 to 5 all the time because I dislike them. I mean, what people ask me, there's usually 2, 3 races, very rarely 4, except Breeders' Cup Day. I'm like, I start with when I dislike a favorite very much. That's the magnet for me. That's the moth to the flame.
And I'm going to talk about the computer-assisted wagering outfits because that was one of the podcast subjects last night. And he said somebody like you should be happy with them because they drive down the price. I love them. And that means you're
I've said this before years. They weren't called CAWs. They were the syndicates and the pick. All these things. I'm like, you can't almost say it, but he's 100%. I love them. We are rarely ever going to be together. And based on the nature of parimutuel wagering, I'm all for it. But I like to look at things and since I grew up, that it's not just about me. The sport has to survive. It has to grow, as a matter of fact, etc. So no, he's right. On an individual scale, 2 things. A, I love them. And B, as I understand it, they're not trifecta interested.
I was interested in
so that's even better for me.
This podcast because he had them in a number of pools that I thought maybe they weren't into as well. So let's go about that also.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and he also has a funny structure of his trifectas. He'll go 1 by a number of horses by 1 maybe, or because he plays around, and I know you're kind of pyramidish with your trifectas.
He plays a single horse in the bottom slot.
I'll
1 by 7 by 1.
I'll ask him. He had a bunch of different sequences.
Marshall, be early because I'm yelling out. That sounds.
He said sometimes
I can learn from him.
Sometimes he might like a 41 bomb in the 3rd slot, and he'll structure the ticket around that a little bit.
Yeah.
So
his key horse, absolutely, because St. Joe Louis is going to be that type of horse.
Yeah,
you're going to key him in the bottom 3rd. So no, but if you have a key horse, the MIG was on the other day. Now I think we all know and love Richie that he's not there to construct betting tickets. And he loved this 30-1 shot who ended up running second. And I'm basically screaming at the thing that it's like, those are the horses, because I'm in that boat often. You key in second and third and tries. Because I say it all the time. And if the favorite's out, boy, it's bombs away.
So we have Marshall at 10 o'clock. We also have Val Buck. Val's been on with us. Hasn't been on in a while, though. She has I
got to say this. We have Marshall at 10, at 11, at 12. Yeah.
I do have I could go quite a while.
I got it.
But Val has the Act Naturally program up in Greenwich. It's retired racehorses tied in with bringing people to do some therapeutic things. She used to work years ago for Wayne Lucas, worked on the racetrack, but now she does this. And I saw her at the start of the meet, and I said, well, we'll have you over to update things there. And then bottom of the show, Chris Engelhart. I saw you had horses in yesterday and horses in today, so I knew he'd still be in town. So I reached out to him, the patriarch of the Engelhart racing, I guess, in New York dynasty. Jeffrey
Absolutely.
Engelhart, Jeremiah
Generational.
Engelhart. And I know folks out in our audience play a lot of Finger Lakes, so you are familiar with the name. You'll get to meet the man himself, Chris Engelhart, a little bit later on as well. That all comes up at 10. And let me remind you also today at the Clubhouse Racebook Trifecta Challenge today, the Bounty Bet returns. Play the late pick 5 at Saratoga with your Capital OTB bet account, and you're in for a shot at the Bounty. Tomorrow, Fan Appreciation Day at the Partners Pub up in the Johnstown, Gloversville area. $100 play the board contest at Clubhouse Racebook. And Sunday, it's a double promotion down to Racebook. And don't forget about noontime today, noontime-ish. Entries open up online for Sunday's show pool. And I will try to get through the first leg at least. Oh, man.
Listen, you don't have to make any apologies. Anybody thinks it's easy, step right up. Pay your money, takes your chances. It's harder, but it's kind of like the other horizontals. I'm like, it's not in this case because you're trying to win money for people, but get me out early. Don't drag me 2.5 hours and then stab me in the heart with a wooden stake.
I do often think just that. Probably better to get out the first or second leg as opposed to getting through the first 4 legs and and then your horse is like never better than 8th in that last leg. You're like, so maybe that is better.
All right, it's the weekend. It's time for the DePaul play of the day. That means it's the Brooklyn Cowboy. Take it away, Kevin.
When you think trucks, think DePaula. Then come join the family for value. Just visit, call, or click.
This week's Chevy Silverado is just $549 a month with zero due at inception. Yes, zero down.
So come join the family and think DePaula for all your automotive needs.
Hello, everybody. Kevin Cox, the Brooklyn Cowboy here with your DePaula play of the day from beautiful Saratoga Race Course. We'll be giving you our plays of the day on Fridays and Saturdays throughout the meet, and we'll be basing our success on a 50 to win, 30 to place, 20 to show wager, and we encourage you to play along. Last year, we showed a flat bet profit for the entire stand, so we endeavor to do the same thing this time. Today's play of the day will be in race number 9, and we'll go with the number 3, Fredo. It was difficult to pass over, sorry about the gratuitous Godfather reference there, this Antonio Sano trainee due to a couple of mitigating circumstances. After a couple of poor efforts, this one is now made available for purchase for the first time at the $50,000 level, and not in a straight claimer, but in a conditional claimer, which are much easier. Secondly, both times this horse went from 1 turn to 2 turns, the adjusted bias speed figures for those were 85.8 and 85.5. And if you compare those to the numbers that the rest of the field has put up, you have the makings of a pretty solid runner. And finally, there are 2 nice workouts since the last race in preparation for today. So all those circumstances will make the number 3 Fredo in race 9 at Saratoga Race Course our DePaula play of the day, and we'll see you at the track.
When you think trucks, think DePaula.
The all-new 2024 Chevy Trax is here. Bigger, roomier, seats 5, and lots of technology. And just $419 a month, zero down.
So come join the family and think DePaula for all your automotive needs.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The opener at its traditional 1:10 post time for television, New York State bred, 2-year-olds, maiden special weights. And I talk about this. They're going 6 now. Saturday, I think we have an open company 6.5. So we're stepping right out.
And I forgot to mention, I'm gonna have to mark it on. Don't forget the low rollers on Thursdays and Sundays. And I was over signing up yesterday, and I was this was the first one in a while where I've been right there. Had 2 bullets left. I was sitting number 16. I was about 12 out of first place. The next horse I liked was an 11 to 1 shot. I thought, and then I couldn't. The last 2 bullets, I didn't do it. But I made money on the card. And again, you then cash in the card. You keep all of that.
Tremendous.
So keep that in mind. But I brought it up because I should have mentioned it yesterday, and I'll start to make a note of that. There was a nice line there when I got there yesterday. And again, it's a great way to get into contests, and I think that then plays into.
I don't follow this part of the business, but I hope every racetrack in America has that.
I don't think.
I'm not a tournament player, but I remember when Seth first started mentioning it. I think you kind of mentioned it as your participation. You were in it right from the drop, and I'm like,
I think it also
explained it to me. I go, that's the greatest contest ever.
Yeah, it's dependent on having a pretty good crowd, I think, so you can get enough players.
But it's also the type
of here.
It's also the type of thing that, I mean,
on big days,
you should advocate. It's like I do wholeheartedly endorse every person playing this one. No one has an edge on you. It's like, and you can't get hurt. Like you said, the $10 goes, you play $30. And here's the other thing. And I've said this before when I used to make the plays of the bets on Channel 13's site. My opinion was that, and I think I used to bet like $50, $60 a day, Traverse Day, like double, right? I said it was my opinion that any adult coming to the racetrack over the course of the day was probably going to bet $50. I thought that was a reasonable number. And my point here is the low roller doesn't do anything, in my opinion, to your day monetarily, because the buy-in is so attractive. And
again,
I think
you keep the money on the card.
But do it. Just do it.
I also brought it up because the 2 folks who are running it over at the booth, Jay and Ray, talked about getting them on the show at some point. So we'll certainly keep that in mind and have them on.
Well, you have to have the Equibase person now. I wrote the 10th race chart. I was 2 days ago.
I was planning to have them in fact, on Wednesday. But we had the mic problems on Sunday, so I wasn't quite sure we were ready to roll. But there's plenty of time. We'll bring those guys over, certainly, Heath and Brian. All right. Opener at Saratoga today. Race number 1 for me, 7, 8, 9, and 4. I'm going to go Mischief Joke on top. Practical Joke, a win early sire. Hasn't gotten it done yet, but has been right there in 3 starts. And again, in this race, these are the kind of races where I'm looking for first-time starters, connections, and breeding and whatnot. But there wasn't anything in here that really jumped off the page. So in that case, I'll go with experience. And again, relatively speaking, decent experience. A couple of firsters underneath those. Split Strike. Split Strike, has a start under the belt. But again, win early breeding with Golden Sense on top. Ran a decent little 4th in debut. And again, with Golden Sense on top, I could certainly see this one moving forward in the second start for Christophe Clement, and love that bird. Has some nice workouts coming in from Finger Lakes and could be a little bit of a player in here. In the first, 7, 8, 9, and 4.
We agree on top. Mischief Joke. Now, here's a situation where I think the experience, though, seems to be at a level that has performed. Mischief Joke has already performed at a level that I see winning this race. Like, he's already shown me, so he has a huge edge because the rest have to show me. He hasn't run like consecutive 40s, and maybe it'll take like a 68 to win this using the buyers. So I'm on Mischief Joke, the offspring of Practical Joke, and then I have Bustin' Away for Anthony Ferraro. Those Finger Lakes guys have brought in some horses over a couple days, and then Eric from Miami, first-time starter. Also, Seth didn't mention that his $13 winner yesterday, Caldwell Loves Gold, is an offspring of Golden Sense.
Oh, right. That was part of the reason I
following that right up, are you?
Right.
But we always tell people, I said, the funny thing about this is Seth has to have his picks in before noon. So he already has the Golden Sense for the next day before the Golden Sense wins.
Second race this afternoon, optional claimer. Non-winners are 2 other than scheduled on the grass. And at this point, I think that's safe to say we'll be there unless something drastically changes. 5.5 furlong.
I think it's safe to say we do not have the same top pick. I think I have 2 bombs today, and I think they're both ridden by Dylan. We'll figure out by the end of the day. 4, 6, 5.
Not too far off.
Whoa, Nelly. Stop the presses. Wow. And I'll just tell you, just
here's
so
one where the
know,
morning line on my top pick.
10 to 1 and 12 to 1 are our exacta, folks. And you completely threw out the 5. You have no interest in the 9 to 5 shot. But we have the same exact, and it would be big balloons, folks. Comedy Town for me. And I was close with the one. You probably have, based on buyers, and you have a higher morning line price. Yours is probably a more insightful way running for the tag again. But Comedy Town is my top pick. It's Seth's second pick. The offspring of Spice Town making the 3rd start of the year. My thought was, and I need this, is the best performance to date because I'm a couple lengths behind Super Success, who is also double digits on the morning line at 12 to 1 for Fernando Abreu. Then for third, in between my top 2 picks is the 9 to 5 shot for Irad, Artemis, City Limits. But Seth, we are in concert almost. That's I agree. I'm happy.
Boxing up the exacta.
Yeah. Well, which why you should tell people that's one of your favorite. That's one of your personal.
Oh, I like
bets,
the
right?
exacta. Yeah. No question. Artemis City Limits to me is a horse that I think you can take a shot against.
You're supposed to.
This is a horse that absolutely has back class, and yes, might win by a city block. My thought is not so much though. Given this horse is now 6 years old, and it seems like is not the same horse this year in 3 starts. Now, those were in stakes company, drops in for a tag, but you can look at that either way. Get some class relief today, but also with a horse that has some stakes quality underneath. And maybe they're giving up a little bit, given dropping in for the tag today. So again, I'm taking a little bit of a negative view. Irad Ortiz on board for Mike Maker may make me look foolish, but I thought the morning line price on Super Success, again, given those numbers, I think this horse is very live in with this bunch. The last 2 finishing positions were a couple of 5th place finishes, so they play into the morning line, but the numbers match up really well with this bunch. Comedy Town, also a player with this group, gets a little touch of class relief. 4th start off the claim, gets back to the level of the claim where the horse just missed. This is the 3rd start back this season, could get an improved performance there. And then Into the Sunrise off the claim for Tom Morley, who I think, again, looks like a player in with this bunch, has some early speed, gets a nice outside attack post position, as our colleague Brian Addo likes to say. And I think you can make that case here. Fauci, I probably would have moved further up the mix, except the horse hasn't been seen since last October. So the fitness question mark was a little something to overcome for me. But it could be a fun little second race for me. 6, 4, 7, and 8.
So you threw the 5 completely out, which I'm for. I mean, I haven't been third.
I said, I could be totally wrong on that. But so far this year, I don't think he stacks up with these.
And I think this is a correct statement. And I think it'd be understandable to me if our summertime Saratoga fans just doesn't jive. I think in our position, or if this is my belief, I should only speak for myself, my belief that as a public handicapper and whatever talent I may or may not have, I think you're supposed to pick against and bet against the 5. And I think for the casual fan, that might not make sense. But I think when you're a public handicapper, a horse that's 9 to 5 that you think has 1.5 Achilles heel, you're not supposed to give that horse out. Like you said about the same horse last year, I think Lone Rock fits in that same thing. He's not the horse he used to be. Next is a horse that what we saw yesterday was like, and I give I love the race because if you notice the early fractions were outstanding for a 1 3/4 race. I mean, it was 24, 49, I think. Then it started to fall off, but the early fractions were like,
completely started to fall off because I don't think they wound up with it.
No, but he was outstanding. On to the 3rd. We have 3-year-olds at Up Phillies and Mares Open Company. Maiden claimers in for 75 on the inner turf course going a mile.
top pick is dark horse play today, so I'll save that for a couple of minutes. Yesterday, Lady Jasmine, it was a nice run. Wasn't really going to threaten for the win, but down the stretch, I thought had the momentum. We were going to get a second place finish.
You do realize you're not going to win them all, right? You realize
but
that,
I want
right?
to win them.
Well, of course, that's the conundrum. That's the continuum.
But that one, because down the stretch, I did think we were going to at least get second and wound up just a close
What's the story
third,
you told me one time? I think it was Jerry Bell. You picked him like 5 races in a row, and somebody asked you, like, well, I don't look at it that way. I picked, and Jerry Bailey happens to be riding.
I put it, and it was Saratoga when Bailey up there at Saratoga.
Remembering that story.
And that was a pretty good, because that was back on the old Del Mar message board. That's going back.
Wow.
And we posted pics, or somebody may have gone over to Equidale and made that comment. Well, you have Bailey on top on like 7 of the 10 races there or something like that. And I said, He's going to win 4 of them probably, but I don't know which. How do I parse out? So yeah,
Jerry and I are both going 4 for 10 today.
So again, for me, it's 8-6, the 1 entry, and 2. I'll talk about Trope in a moment, but Volatility, Irad Ortiz on board, coming off a couple of decent starts when dropped to this level. So I think the horse has found the proper level to be competitive. And then in the third spot, I'll go with St. Benedict's Prep. And also on the AE list, if looking for bargains gets in, I think they're both players for Chad Brown. And just on, they both had races on the numbers. St. Benedict's Press clearly fits dropping in for a tag, and off the layoff, I think looking for bargains has the possibility to move forward. So for me, 8-6, the 1 entry, and 2.
6-4-7 for me. I took Volatility on top, John Terranova. In for a tag for the 3rd time. This is where the runner belongs with Irad. I have to say, Katie's check ride for Jimmy Bond it has to improve maybe 2 lengths in the 3rd career start, 2nd time in for a tag. But we're 15-1. We have Luis Saez on board for the first time, which is I think going to fit this horse with the early momentum. And then for 3rd, Wonder Girl. So 6-4-7 for me. And just as a side note, that's Little Red Feather Racing, right? For you, they're the West Coast based.
Yeah, but they're in with Maticat.
Okay, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's not too many owners that win races at Del Mar and Saratoga. They won a race at Del Mar like 2 days ago, 2 racing days ago, I should say.
Yeah, it's Billy Koch, I think, Little Red Feather. And you're right, they're West Coast based normally, but I would guess it tied in with Maticat.
Yeah,
that explains it. And now in the barn of Grand Motion for the debut last year at Colonial, hasn't been seen since that August start. I thought it was okay. It was one of those to build on. Was up in the mix early and then faded a little bit late. It was against Maiden Specialists. I'm a little concerned they come back for the tag today and only the 2nd career start.
Big tag price.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big tag price. It's Saratoga, or it's a little bit different. And we're getting 15-1 to take the shot. Tyler Gaffleone with a nice day yesterday. Now, I will say the dam is getting a little long in the tooth, but some of the siblings checked the label. 9th in the first start and won the 2nd start on the turf. Sibling called Include Me Out. 5th, then a win, then a 2nd, then a win. On the menu, won the career debut. They were all a while ago, 2008, 2011, 2009. So again, the dam is a little long in the tooth. That's another thing that is a little bit of a question mark for me. But again, we're getting 15-1. I found kind of an esoteric's not the right word. An interesting stat on Grand Motion that it really parses things out in a granular way. But in the last 3 years, in turf claimers going exactly a mile, Grand Motion 4 starters, a win, 2 seconds, and a 3rd. So I found that at least a little bit intriguing. Again, a small stat, but interesting. So 15-1 on Trope, the number 8 horse. That's my dark horse play today. It's brought to you by the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga. Again, swing by, visit, down the street, impressions of Saratoga. I continue to say you will be glad you did. If you're up here for a Friday and thinking, hey, we're going out for dinner afterwards, they stay open late. You can check out both spots this evening. Dark Horse Mercantile, impressions of Saratoga, Dark Horse play of the day, race number 3, horse number 8, Trope.
We will be right back.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
For more than 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 101-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients, served in a home-like setting. Some things have changed in the last 101 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. A couple quick notes here. Some extensive heat around this country. And for today, Woodbine, Laurel, Colonial, and Ellis have canceled racing for today. And watching the network yesterday at home while doing some work, I know that Colonial has canceled their Saturday card ahead of time. But as of today, Woodbine, Laurel, Ellis, and Colonial not racing. Also, just an interesting side note, and part of this that drives me crazy. Because of the situation with Forte and the Hopeful last year, the Gulfport owners, they have a big stake in this, because having a stallion with a grade 1 win, I am told, I take tail of the cat, they chase that grade 1, is infinitely valuable. So they want to get put up in the Hopeful, and then they will have a grade 1 stallion, which means a lot of money. So this is not like some small little thing. And I have to say that the adjudication of that intrigues me a lot. Like, are we going to get there? It's almost the next Hopeful. But it seems as if Forte is going to be disqualified. And that Gulfport will be the winner of the Hopeful, and that they have a stallion with a grade 1.
Grade 1.
And not only that, Gulfport seems to be kind of a precocious runner, so they'll have a grade 1 juvenile winner, which will feed their market. So I'll be watching that too. I mean, that's bizarre.
Yeah, it's fourth race this afternoon, plain vanilla claimer, 6.5 furlongs is the trip.
And Seth and I both like the heat, so maybe we go to these places where it's apparently very warm.
Very warm.
Maybe they have a little beach area, a little sand.
I am in love with warm summer nights. You could open the window or just sit outside.
A little muggy last night, wasn't it for you?
But again, I kind of like that.
195 for me as we go 6.5 here. My sweet wife, oh yes she is. Chris Engelhardt in the house today, and we have him on top in the fourth race. Seth doesn't. He doesn't like to give his guest any love. But Quick Muni is my second pick. The race, this is Linda Rice. This is 7-5. We're on the outside. The race goes through the 9, as Seth points out, and then Custom Experience. You have to, I guess you need highlighters, Seth. Maybe you could look at mine. I had to parse through the times when running at this level for second place finishes. There's a lot going on there, but if you have highlighters, it helps you out. 195.
Yeah, I looked at the 5, but I went 9, 6, 2, and 1. Quick money on top, off the claim for Linda Rice, and she's just continuing to go very well. And this one was in good form in that last start at Ellis. And Linda has picked some of these horses out of Kentucky and come to New York and done well with them. So I'll tilt in that direction. Icy Stare Down at 10-1 on the morning line, I think, is interesting off the claim for Jim Ferraro. Subsequent to that claim, is put in a bullet workout up here, best of 34. And again, has lots of early speed. Maybe to catch me if you can, horse. And again, if you can get a 10-1 price with one of those types, and they turn for home, and there's that spurts away. Love
when you see that.
I talked to you about, and it made sense because you weren't quite as on board. the visuals of when you're watching live as opposed to, and I said in the stretch, there are, and you weren't on board with it just because I think most people are either watching live or watching on TV. And so you don't pick it up as much. But there was one yesterday where they came in and I in the press box, sometimes I'll just be watching because I'll be working. I'll watch them on my computer. And it looked like it was head and head on camera. And Frank Miramonte says, opens up a 3-length lead. And I look, sure enough, live. And so in the stretch, there are points where you think, oh, I have a real chance. You don't have a real chance if you're watching on TV.
I think that's
a very funny
exactly
situation.
I think it's the part between the quarter pole and the 3/16 pole.
I would say it's more about the 8th pole or so.
Oh, okay. I don't.
All right. Because again, you think watching on TV,
I'm
think,
in it.
Yeah,
No, you're not.
And it's like you got a ways to go there. It's funny. So again, Icy stared on with the early speed and Hydra in the 3rd spot. A couple of poor performances recently, but I think could wake up with the class drop in the 4th, 9-6, 2-1.
Jimmy Bond has backup black car service. 7-2-1 for me. Tom Morley. This was one of the shorter price horses that, you can't beat them all. Sometimes you can beat a couple, but you can't beat them all. This horse has been sharp. Now in the most recent effort at this level, going the mile. Now we get 2 turns. We stretch out. I'm hoping that's the tonic for second. Kaz Palace going out off of the victory in an optional starter allowance over at Penn National, going to 2 turns. And Son of an X from the rail, 7-2-1.
You skipped the intro. You were introing there. I have it 7-5-2-3.
Yeah, the 7
also. Colloquy on top. Not thrilled with the 5-pound apprentice on board with no wins at the meet, but I looked and where else was I going to go? Okay. So I really looked and just had trouble finding somebody else. But Beta coming in from some nice performances at Finger Lakes and Kaz Palace. Nice win at Penn National. The starts before that in New York, not so much. So I didn't quite know what to do with that one. It's an interesting race, but 7-5-2-3 for me.
For many years, the apprentice coming up here, you didn't want to lose your bug just before Saratoga because you get no mounts. But now the waters for an apprentice are incredibly deep. I think we had a period in our youth in the 70s where, it was unbelievably deep waters. They all marched into the Hall of Fame. And then we had a period where the waters a little bit more level. But now you're back. I mean,
over the years, it would be like one apprentice may be able to make
I think Jeff Carl won the meet with as the leading apprentice with 4 W's or something. I forget. But he was the leading apprentice, our colleague years ago. It's just, but now with, you think of the races and the connections, you got to get through Todd Pletcher, you got to get through Chad Brown, you got to get through Flavio. And you're just like, man, dial me in for a vacation.
Yeah. 6 races this afternoon, maiden specials vying for $136,000. And they're maidens who are going to work it out at 1 3/8 on the turf.
We have the same horses here on top. 7-2-1. Now, you're off.
I got my hunch better than meat here. Are you kidding?
All right. Well, you should have gone. No. Athro is my top pick for Grand Motion. We're double-digit odds on the morning line. I think we're right in this fit. Grand Motion, an outstanding trainer. It's the 3rd career start. The more recent effort is on a soft going. Not going to have that today. The debut was sharp. The soft going was sharp. I think we got game here for second. Number 2, Smart Uncle for Jonathan Thomas. Another live horse. Now, this horse is 7-2. Career debut ran second. And how about this? Ran in the Cinema Stakes, which is now listed. But from a historical standpoint, Manila's first graded stakes victory. Sent out to California, Fernando Toro, recently in the Hall of Fame, rode him, and for 3rd from the hedge, number 1, Swore. I think this is a terrific race. I love these races. I love getting 10-1 on Grand Motion on a horse that I think is there within 2 lengths. And if I get the extra 2 lengths and I get $22, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I could point to, I didn't use yours, but I could point to 2 or 3 others that
More.
I like.
Well,
but as I say, I'm going hunch of the meat here. First, it's an Augustin runner. Folks have watched long enough. They know I used to like the Invaders for Augustine with Jonathan Shepard. I think Jonathan Thomas is doing a fine job, but started the career in Maiden Special, Indiana, Horseshoe, Indiana. And then they ship out to Santa Anita to try that cinema. Ran okay. I'm going to give this one another look, being one of those Augustine runners shipping in and maybe offering a little bit of value. But Smart Uncle, I texted both of my sisters yesterday, and they both now are putting $10 on the horse. Because
wow.
I said, here's my hunch better than me. I knew they would get the reference with their kids, and I'm the uncle and the great uncle now of their kids. And Smart Uncle. So I'm going to go with it. But again, I liked it before that whole scenario with the Augustine and the tryout in the stakes race as a maiden. Second slot, we will take a look at number 10. Too Far East is West. On the outside for Mike Trombetta. In the mile and 3/8 has plenty of time to find a little spot with Luis Saez. So far, we've had some pretty good efforts. Stuck in that bridesmaid mode, which scares me a little bit. But I think this horse will be a player, and with this bunch, and Swore on the inside for Graham Motion, improving numbers over the first 3 starts of the career, including a try at a mile and a quarter last time. So for me in the 6th, 2, 10, 1, and 3.
My Augustine Stable horse the other day, not so good. Yeah. It was a really rough go around the racetrack. Take a quick break. When we come back, the late pick 5. Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad. Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
It's in front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Paul. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a beautiful, beautiful Friday with 11 on the card. So race 7 kicks off the final pick 5. State Bred's going 5.5 on the turf, entry-level allowance.
I'll start out by saying we're rooting for Brennan's War. It goes out for Dan Collins and our friends at Bonaventure Stable.
How many can they win?
They had Ocean's Reserve when I had Dan in the other day. They won that afternoon. That was a lot of fun, certainly. And Brennan's War is coming out of a win that same weekend that Ocean's Reserve had won previously down at Belmont. I just thought the numbers were a little light. I didn't use it, but if you're playing around and you want to root for the locals, I'm rooting. And if I see the horse at 20-1, I'm going to have a couple of bucks on it. But I have it 6, 8, 7, and 5. I put Creasa on top for Dave Donk. Couple of tries at the allowance level so far. I thought they were good enough to match up with this bunch. Probably does have to step forward a little bit, but again, relatively lightly raced. I think a step forward is not out of the question. So I'm going to tilt in that direction and get a little bit of a price, perhaps. Honor Among Men. Lots of speed shown up at the Finger Lakes for Chris Englehart. I'll get some thoughts on this one from Chris when we have him in a little bit later. Third start back off of 2 wins up at the Finger Lakes. Could be primed for a good effort today. And then City Mischief in the 3rd spot going out for Mark Cassie. Hasn't been seen since the end of the year down at Gulfstream. Otherwise, I probably would have put this horse on top. May wind up being the one to beat if ready to run. I have it 6, 8, 7, and 5.
This race was, I thought they had the most big price horses live. I mean, this is a great betting race, and good luck to everybody out there. And when I was done, I'm 10, 7, 6, and I don't think the race goes through City Mischief or Disarmed. I think the race goes through everybody is in the pool. So as I've said, get yourself a price. And Linda Rice and Jose Ortiz at 8-1. Now, as you said, we've been in this area for a while, but today shortens up to 5.5. And I think I like the running style where we're going to be positioned here on Feathers Road, my top pick. I took City Mischief making the seasonal debut for Mark Cassidy for second, and then Creasa, this 6 horse, will be coming out of the clouds, 10-7-6. And a quick note, I'll probably long remember that Dan Collins won on a Sunday because Dan's golf cart has a license plate on it, and I followed him going to my inaugural debut at a breakfast place that you mentioned that I enjoyed, but I followed him out. I go, there he is, but he's got a license plate on his.
There are a few of them buzzing around the city this time of year.
All right.
License-plated golf carts. 8th race at Saratoga this afternoon, plain vanilla claimer. 7 furlongs is the trip.
785 for those who live in Latham. I guess this will be the hunch play of the day, but 785 for me, and Street Swag for Mike Maker. First off the claim, who did reach in at Ellis for 75 to take this offspring of Street Sense. Shortens up, they have the mile that is just like our mile now. They start perpendicular to the finish line and run around. So we shorten up to 7/8. Street Swag, my top pick for second, right next door in the starting gate. Joking Way, Linda Rice claimed this horse for 50 from Steve Asmussen. This horse won the second career start in an off-going, then won at Oaklawn going 6 on a clear fast track. And then for third, number 5, Dangerous Ride coming out of stakes action at Presque Isle off of the Tapeta. I like those efforts. 7-8-5 for me.
I went 9, 8, 7, and 4, and I looked in other directions for Improve Right. They come out of Stakes Company and drop in for the tag, but also I looked down and, hey, Bullet Workout night. Well, then you realize the Bullet Workout was before the Dwyer, so this horse is not showing a workout in a while. Drop in for the tag. But I looked at what this horse can kind of typically fire, and I think the horse can regress a little bit and maybe still have an edge on this bunch. So I wanted to go in a different direction, but I think this horse might have a class edge, but there are question marks. Certainly, if you're playing the horizontals, play around a little bit. Joking Way off the claim for Linda Rice as a player. Mike Maker and Irod Ortiz, yes, with Street Swag off the claim. Also interesting. Warrior Richard at 10-1. I think this horse can be a player in here. The numbers are moving in the right direction. Goes from the apprentice to a journeyman, and I think it's possible at a price that horse could be a player as well. So for me, in the 8th, 9, 8, 7, and 4.
And I think the Dwyer might have come back a 106 or something. And I think many people will like the loser of the photo finish Saudi Crown in the Jim Dandy on Saturday. Take our final break. When we come back, the final pick 3.
For more than 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 101-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients, served in a home-like setting. Some things have changed in the last 101 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
The only thing better than watching the races is watching your own racehorse. With nearly 20 years experience in the racing industry, Bonaventure Stables' share-based ownership program enables everyday fans to become part owner of a thoroughbred for far less than you might think, with all the ownership perks at Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, and other great tracks. Experience the thrill and lifestyle of owning your own thoroughbred racehorse. Learn more at bonaventurestables.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 11 on this Friday, so the 9th race kicks off the final pick 3. Going a mile on the inner turf. Claimers in for 52L.
8, 10, 6, and 3. I'll put Harry Hood on top. Chad Brown trainee comes in with 3 starts. Debuted down at Gulfstream, and then put in a couple of starts at Churchill. One at Churchill, one at Ellis, and you have a Kentucky bred and those juiced up purses. Those are all made special company, though. They were okay. Broke the maiden last time at Ellis. Now comes back for the tag and then 2L. That's maybe a little bit of a concern for me, but maybe they're just being realistic given, what we've seen so far from this horse. But I think a good matchup with this bunch. Ski Patrol gets stuck on the outside. Otherwise, I might have used this one up. It's Jonathan Thomas and Augustin coming in most recently from a May start at Horseshoe Indy. But again, the 10 post position going the mile, I think, could be a little bit of an obstacle to overcome. Gamer in the third spot, another one coming in from Kentucky, this one for Brendan Walsh, another one making a class move that I think will be beneficial this afternoon. So for me, 8, 10, 6, and 3.
6, 10, 3 for me. Gamer, first time in for a tag. Brendan Walsh has run at Ellis, Churchill, and Keeneland on the turf, has run on the Tapeta at Turfway Synthetics 3 times. I draw a good post position. I have Gamer on top with Luis Saez. Ski Patrol, one thing, the post position is very tough, but I think Irad is just going to move over. He doesn't have the good speed. I think he's going to kind of be maybe the 3 path at worst going in, maybe the 2 path if he can find a little nook for the Augustin runner. And then Fredo, also first time in for a tag, coming out of a entry-level allowance turf sprint down at Belmont. 6, 10, and 3.
Sometimes on that outside post position, sometimes you think they have speed or like they'll settle in and then they go and they come into the turn stuck out 4 wide. And I'm not a jockey, and I'm sure they're trying to find position, but it's just there's no choice. And so it's always a little bit of an obstacle there. The 10th today,
your race,
dear to my heart, my old burg, Amsterdam. The Amsterdam's grade 2 event, $200,000 up for grabs. 3-year-old sprinters, they'll go 6.5.
I'm interested to see where you go. I did not develop much of a feel for this race. Obviously, the on-track prep for the Allen Jerkins. I'm 4-1-3. The race goes through Drew's Gold. Seth has on top and very reasonable. Won the Gold Fever off of a slight freshening, but Gilmore, maybe it'll be the Brendan Walsh, Anthony Mormino hour, and we'll have a couple of winners. But a big effort in the Woody Stevens now shortens up. I just think he's going to get the right trip with Irad, and I know it's rare to say, but maybe we could get 3.5 to 1 in here if Drew's Gold becomes like an even money type favorite in here. They both exit defeat in the Woody Stevens to the sharp Bob Baffert Arabian Lion. But I'm going to take Gilmore out of that race at a bigger price than Drew's Gold, who I think is the horse to beat. And then Deer District, Dale Roman's runner making the first stakes race as a 3-year-old in a intriguing Amsterdam at 6.5. 4-1-3.
I think it's a fun race. I put Drew's Gold on top just because that race last time finished behind Arabian Lion with a good effort. And before that, had a win streak going. And so I'll go in that direction. But New York Thunder continues a win streak, 3 for 3 so far. Gilmore, Dave Grenigan yesterday, he said play that one because he's Grenig off because he's been on Gilmore for a while.
I know that angle.
But he thought Gilmore was playable. Rivet, a sprinter, a 3-year-old sprinter for Steve Asmussen. You could do worse the last few years than going in that direction. Certainly, it's a fun race, but I couldn't get past Drew's Gold. I think he may just have the edge on this bunch. In the 10th, 1, 6, 4, and 5.
Does he train Gulfport?
Golf? That's a good question. That sounds probably...
Aren't those the silks?
That sounds...
The white with the burnt orange?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. On to the 7th, wrapping it up at approximately 6:52. We're going to go a mile 16th for maiden claimers in for 40 on the Mellon turf course.
6, 10, 2, and 7, Twirling Express on top. Maiden special weight to maiden claiming for Todd Pletcher, and I think that's going to be enough to move this horse forward with Luis Saez on board, but variable cost for Linda Rice, second off the claim and moving back down to the level of the claim, I think is another one that will be live in here. But again, this is one that's stuck a little bit on the outside, going 2 turns on the grass. So that's, again, will be an obstacle to overcome. Fast Boat to Sky in the 3rd spot. Yet another maiden special weight to maiden claiming. This one for Dave Donk. But again, I think that the move is going to be beneficial given the numbers this horse typically throws. So 6, 10, 2, and 7.
Is our man here yet?
He was right there just a minute ago.
All right. Danger zone for him. 7-3-1, nostalgic one. Makes the 3rd career start for Todd Pletcher. First time in for a tag. Brilliant breeding for the turf when you have English Channel and Animal Kingdom. Now, there's one, a Derby winner who is, for people that follow the game less closely than us, right? That was his only dirt win of his career, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then Urgent Fury, also first-time tag, third career start. This one, though, having not run since August. And for third, Timo from the Hedge, first time in for a tag for Jonathan Thomas. 7-3-1, and I think a terrific get-out race at just about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, it should be fun. Don't forget, today at the Clubhouse Racebook, we have the Trifecta Challenge. Bounty bet returns today. Play the late pick 5 with the Capital OTB bet account for a shot at the bounty. Fan Appreciation Day tomorrow. Partners Pub up in the Johnstown, Gloversville area. $100 play the board contest at the Clubhouse Racebook tomorrow. Clubhouse on Sunday. Match bet and exacta board double promo. And don't forget, around noon today, entries will open for the Sunday show pool team.
Is that my target?
Yep. He's there.
Unfortunately, this is life offering. Poor timing. I have to jet, but because we have no choice. He had a breakfast engagement after being on with you. They'd be like, but yeah, Marshall, who's in the wings early. We always like that. You got to follow him on Twitter. If you have any interest in advancing your level of intelligence on betting horses, yeah, just is a great follow. I mean, yeah, what do they say? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. His tweets, you got to read them, you got to stick with them, you got to figure it out. But you'll be a better when it's done. I've said nothing on this program as often as I've said this. I would rather be, if I had to choose, a great bettor than a great handicapper. And I've never met anyone that pulled me aside and said, that's the dumbest thing. You got it backward.
That podcast with Pete Fornatale and Marshall that I was referring to, at one point in the podcast, they said exactly that. Pete Fornatale said, I'd rather be a good bettor than a good handicapper.
Yeah. I used to say when we were in the old studio down in Smith Street, I said, if a greater being is outside this door when I leave and says you get to choose a millisecond to say, we got to run out of time because I don't want Marshall to wait, but we'll talk about it more about how much time you spend handicapping and writing tickets. He stays, I go, don't go anywhere. All the guests are great, but this guest is going to raise your level of skill. Have a great Friday. It's beautiful out here. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
You've been watching the Handicappers Report. The Handicappers Report has been brought to you by Thorough Pace, Premium Racing Analytics, allowing bettors to identify races with extreme pace scenarios in a matter of seconds. Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. Bet any place, anytime with Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. And CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier wagering site in New York State.